and welcome to Nationwide. Good to have you join us. I am Lydia Odije Ochi. An extraordinary China-Africa Summit on Solidarity against COVID-19 is now underway. President Muhammadu Buhari is participating in the high-profile virtual engagement being presided over by the Chinese leader Xi Jinping. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports that leaders of African countries, UN Secretary General, and the Director General of the World Health Organization are participating online. The meeting is in furtherance of efforts at renewing fraternity between China and Africa, as well as discussing joint response against the coronavirus pandemic. China has consistently attached great importance to the friendly relations of cooperation with Africa, as well as building a closer community of shared future. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, China and Africa have offered assistance to each other and joined hands in fighting the pandemic. In the early hours of this morning, Wednesday, June the 17th, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, released 490 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the country. These 490 new cases raises the number of confirmed cases to 17,148. In the breakdown, Lagos has 142. The FCT has 60, Bayelsa 54, Rivers 39, Delta 37, Oyo 30, Kaduna 26, Imo State 23, Enugu 19, Kwara 17, Gombe 11, Ondo 10, Bauchi, Borno 6, and COVID-19 chart with 7,461. Next on the chart is the FCT with 1,324, followed by Kano with 1,158. About 455 people are reported to have died from COVID-19 complications so far, while 5,623 patients have been discharged after recovery. And following the discharge of the last 3 coronavirus patients from the Adamawa State Isolation Center recently, the state is said to be without a single confirmed case of the virus. Simon Asha reports that this was why the World Health Organization, in conjunction with the State COVID-19 Containment Committee, celebrated the 19 survivors of the virus in Yola.
Adamawa State then had its own share of the virus until the 2nd April 2020. Ever since, the state, with the technical support of the World Health Organization and other partners, tested over 374 cases, and out of which 42 tested positive, while 313 tested negative to coronavirus. This effort is what brings to the success story as the state discharged its last 3 remaining patients of the virus.
14 days following my administration, I have declared negative of coronavirus. With the help of the healthcare workers, I fought coronavirus and defeat the virus.
Everybody is vulnerable. The very good thing about this is that we can survive it.
The last case that was tested positive was 16 days ago.
In Yola, Simon Asha, NTA News.
The federal government says the gloomy description of the country's debt profile as painted by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar in his press statement is nothing but a deliberate attempt to spread doom anchored on a false premise. In a statement signed by Segun Adeyemi, Special Assistant to the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, said, while the federal government welcomes constructive criticism, such must be anchored on verifiable facts rather than speak from an uninformed position for the fun of it.
The Information and Culture Minister noted that there is no doubt that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar loves our country and wishes it well. Otherwise, he would not have sustained his serial quest for the country's highest position. One can only hope that his research to the use of such words as precipice, foreclosure, and economic ruins does not reflect anything but best wishes for the country at this time. Lai Mohammed maintained that the figure of Nigeria's debt-to-revenue ratio of 99% in the first quarter of 2020, quoted by the former vice president, is not in the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper where he claimed he got it from. The statement further queried the source of the first quarter figures of 943.12 billion naira for debt servicing and 950.56 billion for retained revenue, which was also quoted by Atiku Abubakar. The minister said the debt service provisions in the annual budget include principal payments, interest payments, and all other applicable charges, adding, therefore, Atiku's statement that debt services does not equate to debt payment is not only wrong, but ill-informed. On the former vice president's assertion that revenue needs to go up, Lai Mohammed said this administration has introduced several measures to shore up revenues, listing some of the measures as the passage and implementation of the Finance Act 2019, various ongoing reforms in the oil and gas sector, tax administration and collections, as well as the strategic revenue growth initiatives. Furthermore, Lai Mohammed said since Nigeria's debt service is expressly provided in the annual budget and the debt service payments are made as at when due, the issue of creditors foreclosing on Nigeria, as strangely predicted by the former vice president, does not arise. Saying, contrary to the statement credited to Atiku Abubakar, that Nigeria has experienced alarming and unprecedented increase in the ratios of debt to GDP and debt service to revenue, indeed, Nigeria's ratio of debt to GDP is one of the lowest in the world, at 19%. As at December 31st, 2019, one of the reasons why debt services to revenue is high is because revenue generation in Nigeria has been low, with overdependence on the oil sector. This corroborated by the fact that the ratio of Nigeria's tax revenue to GDP is one of the lowest in the world at about 6%, the minister added. Lai Mohammed said, unlike what obtained in the past when the nation borrowed to service the crass indulgence of a few fat cats, the loans being obtained by the current administration are being primarily used to finance infrastructure projects, which include roads, rails, bridges and power, and the loans are long-term in nature, which will benefit present and future generations in the face of massive infrastructural decay, as no responsible government will sit by and do nothing. This present administration's borrowing, therefore, is aimed at mostly revamping our infrastructure. The loans for the educational sector will contribute to the development of our human capital, while the loans for the agricultural sector will help the move to diversify the economy. The minister said, despite the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the country's economy, the federal government has continued to take measures to mitigate the effect of the pandemic and assure that the government will always act in the best interest of Nigerians.
Humanity's unending need for production and consumption continues to threaten the well-being of natural ecosystems. World Desertification and Drought Day is therefore initiated to create awareness on global efforts to preserve land and its resources. Onenge Fineface has more.
Human population is growing steadily, and with increasing population comes increasing demand for land to produce food, animal feed, and fiber for clothing. In our quest to meet up with these demands, land resources continue to be exploited and degraded at unsustainable levels, causing damage to the ecosystems and biological diversity. Now, over 2 billion hectares of productive land are said to be degraded, while human activities have led to the transformation of over 70% of natural ecosystems. To mitigate these, the United Nations sets aside 17th of June every year as World Desertification and Drought Day.
The year's event focuses on the intense human activities and unsustainable method of production and consumption to meet the demand for food, feed, and their impact on the limited land resources.
In Nigeria, the federal government is implementing policies like the planting of 25 million trees to restore degraded forest covers and protect livelihoods of people who depend on the land for survival.
We raise the seedlings, and we also acquire seedlings from other agencies and from organizations. We should have enough to plant the 25 million and even beyond by the grace of God before the end of this year. We are working with the state government. They are giving us a lot of cooperation. Some of them are taking seedlings from us, planting and maintaining those seedlings, even private organizations, schools.
The Great Green Wall project of the Federal Ministry of Environment is also making impact in checking desert encroachment in 11 frontline states of the country.
Particularly in northern Nigeria, where land degradation is so much affecting the socio-economic activities of people. We believe that the more trees we have, the better soil we have, the better agricultural production we have, the better means of livelihood for the people living in those places, because trees and other vegetation protect the soil. It protects infrastructure in the area.
Nigeria, like our counterparts the world over, is promoting public awareness and advancing strong community involvement to achieve land degradation neutrality, which is at the core of the 2020 commemoration of World Desertification and Drought Day. In Abuja, Onengiye Fineface, NT News.
Thank you, Nengie. Now with focus on combating desertification and drought. We have joining us live to speak more on this year's commemoration of Desertification Day, Professor Nasiru Idris. He's the Dean, Faculty of Environmental Sciences, Nasarawa State University, KEFI. Thank you for joining us on Nationwide.
Thank you very much.
Now, what is land degradation and why should we focus on this issue?
Okay, if you look at the issue of desertification, which is land degradation in arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid area resulting from various factors, including climatic variability and human activities. Desertification has been one of the major global environmental problems which has drew attention of the globe right from the Dust Bowl of the 1938, when the desertification trend has exposed in the United States of America, especially in the African context during the desertification issue when it comes in 1972. So it affected a lot of people, especially in the Sahel and the Sudan zone of Africa. So it has become a serious global issue and due to global attention.
Yeah. Now, this year's Desertification and Drought Day focuses on the links between consumption and land. How does this consumption affect the health of our landscape?
Okay, if you look at like the theme food, fiber, as well as clothing. So this is very, very key. There's a synergy between consumption and land, because whatsoever we consume today, it has to be produced on land. And you might buy something online, and you might go to supermarket and pick a lot of things, but actually you don't know the process that it has come to that supermarket. Therefore, it's very, very important. There's a synergy between that. And globally, land has been threatened as a result of drought and desertification. Therefore, there's a need for proper awareness, global awareness. That is why the United Nations General Assembly set aside particular 17th of June to be celebrated, so that at least people should be aware on the trend, what is the problem, how do we curtail this kind of problem, because desert is seriously encroaching. If you look at Nigeria, the rate of encroachment is moving at the rate of 0.6 kilometers a year, moving southward from the northern part of Nigeria. And it has been moving and causing a lot of issues. For example, the migration of herdsmen, right from the northern part of the country to the middle belt of region. That's why the middle belt of the country, it has become a flashpoint, a conflict zone. So all this is as a result of migration, whereby you have deficiency in rainfall, you have encroachment, declining vegetation. All this has led to the problem of drought and desertification in Nigeria.
Okay, now, Prof, are Nigerians really aware of the desertification problem we're having?
Well, I can say yes, because, you know, climate change is a global issue. Because of climate change issues, people are aware. We have Federal Ministry of Environment, we have Department of Drought and Desertification, we have Climate Change Department, we have a day that has been set aside, World Environment Day. So there's a proper awareness going on. And the current administration is doing well. If you look at, for example, we have an agency, Great Green Wall Agency. They are doing well. Even the departments are doing, even at state level, we have Ministry of Environment, we have forestry departments. They are doing so much, and people are aware, because all this has touched the life of people in the rural area. And actually, people in our own context, they are doing, in academic environment, we have Department of Geography, Environmental Management. They are doing well, especially in the northern part of the country.
Okay, now to my final question. How can we halt land degradation and promote restoration?
Okay, thank you very much. If you look at the best approach is afforestation. Afforestation program is very, very key in terms of halting land degradation. Why? Because if you plant a tree, a single tree stores carbon. It stabilizes the soil. It breaks the impact of prevailing wind. It restores back ecosystem. It changes the microclimate. We take in oxygen from the tree, and it releases. It takes in carbon and releases oxygen. Therefore, tree is one of the key tools to solve the problem of drought and desertification in Nigeria.
Thank you very much for coming on Nationwide. We have been talking with Professor Nasiru Idris, the Dean, Faculty of Environmental Sciences, Nasarawa State University, talking about today's observance. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Lagos is our first port of call, and Hingino is our guide. Over to you, Hingino.
Thank you, Lydia. We begin here with the health sector. The ongoing nationwide strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors is impacting on the health sector in Lagos State. Annie Daniels, who visited some health facilities in the state, reports that the strike is total in public hospitals.
The resident doctors laid down their tools midnight Monday, June 15, over complaints bordering on inadequate personal protective equipment as they work towards combating COVID-19. The indefinite strike is total across all government hospitals in Lagos, with exemption of members who are rendering services at COVID-19 treatment centers.
A lot of things are involved. You are working, you are not giving tools. How can you work?
Government should try and do what they can do to meet their demands, because life is very precious. We only have one life to live, and I will advise that the government should dialogue with them.
Recognizing the roles of resident doctors in the health sector, Chairman, Medical Advisory Committee, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Ruth, Professor Wasi Adeyemo says the hospital will keep rendering services, hence no need for panic.
Patients that are under our care must not suffer. Patients that need emergency care and urgent care must not suffer. And apart from resident doctors, we also have consultants in the hospital, we have our officers, we also have medical officers. We try as much as possible to cope. We hope it's not something that's going to be there for a long time.
The doctors are also advising that members who are attending to virus-affected patients should be given improved welfare and more protective kits because of their exposure to a higher risk of contracting COVID-19. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTN News.
Away from health now, on the heels of the appeal by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, to security agencies to strictly enforce the interstate ban, Joy Ken Abakwe visited the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to monitor compliance and came back with this report.
As the cases of the coronavirus spike in the country, the federal government has continued to enforce compliance among Nigerians to strict guidelines to prevent the spread of the virus.
There is a normal.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has maintained its stance on the ban on interstate travel, while security agencies are to enforce total compliance on the various travel routes. However, when NTN News crew drove through the stretch of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway up to the Shagamu intersection, the entire route was devoid of checkpoints. Enforcement of the ban on interstate travel, even after the directive, was not in force. A team of officers from the Ogun State Police Command manned the Lagos-Abeokuta intersection. Investigations reveal that movement within Ogun State by motorists is restricted during the weekends. In Lagos, Joy Ken Abakuya, NTN News.
That's it from Lagos. We now take a break. Nationwide continues shortly.
I wish to once again commend the frontline workers across the country who, on a daily basis, risk everything to ensure we win this fight. For those who got infected in the line of duty, rest assured that government...
Thanks for staying. Nationwide continues in Abuja. Troops of Operation Lafia Dole and some elements of the Civilian Joint Task Force have rescued 32 people abducted and eliminated 22 Boko Haram members during an ambush and clearance operations. In a statement, the Coordinator of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, indicates that the rescued comprises 16 women, 16 children, and 1 male adult. Major General Enenche notes that the encounter that spanned through Goza, Askira, Uba, Bama, Gamboru, Ngala, and Ganze local government areas of Borno State also captured 1 terrorist, recovered several arms, destroyed criminal camps, while many Boko Haram members escaped with gunshot injuries. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuko Buratai, And the military high command commends the armed forces for their patriotism and urged them to sustain the tempo to ensure rapid mopping up of the remnants of the terrorists. The National Security Advisor Babagana Munguno has condemned the killings of innocent citizens in Katsina State and the Northwest. The security advisor, who was addressing newsmen after the closed-door meeting between the service chiefs and Governor Masari, said there is the need for collective efforts of local communities to address the ugly situation for good. Abdul Malik Hassan reports.
Following the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari, a delegation of security service chiefs was in Katsina State, where the service chiefs met with Governor Aminu Masari and brainstormed on the security challenges bedeviling Katsina State, which led to the killings of innocent citizens and destruction of properties. Briefing newsmen after the closed-door meeting with Governor Aminu Masari, which took about 1 hour, the National Security Advisor Babagana Munguno, who led the delegation, said they have agreed to adopt new strategies in fighting insecurity bedeviling the state to ensure peace is fully restored.
We emphasized on human security being the centerpiece of the National Security Strategy of 2019. And we're going to look into these areas that are specified in the National Security Strategy to work to bring to an end the current threats facing not just Katsina State but even the other states.
The delegation was also at the Emir of Katsina Palace to commiserate with him and the people of the state over the demise of many people as a result of the armed banditry. The Emir of Katsina, Abdul Mumin Kabir Usman, appreciated the effort of President Muhammadu Buhari for the directive, saying that it will go a long way in addressing the security challenges bedeviling the state. It could be recalled in the recent weeks, bandits have wreaked havoc in some frontline local government areas of Katsina State. As a result, many lives were lost and property worth millions of naira destroyed. In Katsina, Abdul Malik Hassan, NTA News.
With the increasing number of rape cases across the country, there is urgent need for strict enforcement of laws prohibiting rape and other gender-based violence. This is the submission of the Federation of Muslim Women Association of Nigeria, Akwa Ibom State Chapter, as they marched round the streets with a stopover at NTA Uyo to campaign against rape. Edidion Iba reports.
Nigeria, the media space is inundated by stories of rape and gender-based violence perpetrated by some persons who unfortunately and in most cases are known persons to the victims. In some states like Akwa Ibom, there have been reported cases of arrest of perpetrators of these evil acts, and just recently, the Zamfara State Police Command paraded a 25-year-old man suspected to have raped a minor. The call that everyone should be involved in this fight is yielding fruits, as more groups are lending their voices to condemn the despicable acts. The Federation of Muslim Women's Association of Nigeria, Akwa Ibom State Chapter, took to the streets to campaign against rape, a campaign that culminated at the premises of NTA Uyo.
For rapists, they should be brought to book and even let their name be registered, be written boldly on a national register, so that they will learn and know that it is anti-human.
We cannot open our eyes down and see our daughters or our women being molested, and after that they get killed.
They advise parents to rise up to their responsibilities of training both the male and female children.
The parents should go back to the drawing board, train the men, their boy child, to respect the body of a woman. Train their girl child to respect the body of a man, because it's vice versa.
Even people wearing hijab, wearing niqab, are being raped. Does it mean they are not properly dressed?
In Uyo, Edidion Iba, NTA News.
Lanre is standing by in Ibadan with trending reports from that part of the country. Lanre, you're on.
Thank you, Lydia, and welcome to Ibadan. Widows of retired Army, Naval and Air Force officers in Oyo State have benefited from the kind gesture of the colleagues of their late husbands. Grace Bamidele tells us more.
To cushion the economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic, leaders of Legion of Retired Army, Navy, Air Force officers, Ranao, Oyo State Chapter, have extended the acts of giving to the widows of the Legion. The occasion was graced by the presence of the members, wives and widows of the Ranao Club.
Which must be given support and assistance and love to widows. We should be able to stretch this type of love to those widows that belongs to our members.
Beneficiaries of the stimulus appreciated the gesture, hoping for an end to the pandemic.
I thank God. At least I know that if my husband happened to be around for today, I don't know how joyful it would have been. But I give all the glory to Almighty Father.
Ranao is an organization of retired officers of the Nigerian military force who have served the nation in various capacities. In Ibadan, Grace Bamdele, NTA News.
Reactions have begun to trail the new measures released by Oyo State COVID-19 Task Force on the resumption of workers and certain categories of students. Dayo Ogunshola is on standby to feel the pulse of the people.
From June 22, 2020, the number of workers in Oyo State from grade level 12 downward are expected to return back to work. Students in primary 6, JSS3 and SS3 are also expected. What are the reactions of Nigerians, especially residents of Oyo State, to this new measure?
For children, I think for now we need to hold on, pipe down for them. But for the adults, let's take it as a, what would I call it, as a test study.
If proper things are not being put in place and you went ahead to let the school should resume, I think the rate at which the COVID aspect will increase will be more. And for the resumption of the workers, at least we are matured enough to know what is right and what is wrong.
Definitely we cannot say the school should not reopen, but what we can ask for is that the government put certain things, certain measures on ground so that they will be able to curb the spread of this coronavirus among our students.
The choices and steps taken by Nigerians in days to come to determine the public health and safety in Oyo State. In Ibadan, Dayo Ogunshola, NTA News.
And that's the size of our contribution in Ibadan. Rest of Nationwide continues with Lydia in Abuja.
Thank you, Larry. The federal government has threatened to sack all striking National Association of Resident Doctors who failed to report to work on Wednesday as the ongoing reconciliation meeting ended in a deadlock. Minister of Health Dr. Osage Hanire has directed all chief medical directors of federal medical centers to open a register by 7 o'clock in the morning and close it at 12 noon to take record of those who come to work and those who fail to turn up. The meeting, which commenced at 1:30 p.m. Tuesday, ended at 7:45 p.m. in the evening after members of the association, led by the president, Aliyu Sokomba, stormed out of the meeting, insisting that they would only suspend the ongoing action within 24 hours if the government brings something tangible to the table.
Health is a very sensitive matter, especially when we now have a pandemic. And we have ILO conventions at work and on strike to guide us at these perilous times. So the Minister of Health will speak because we have to put up some ad hoc arrangements. The government has to put up some ad hoc arrangements to preserve the people of Nigeria.
The resident doctors have told us that they're not going to be returning to work very soon until certain other conditions are met, and we are not sure that they will not continue extending the goalpost every time we try to reach a solution. Therefore, certain steps need to be taken to protect citizens, particularly those who are in hospital, and most particularly those who are looking for emergency service and those who are in intensive care for COVID-19.
Our next spot of call on Nationwide today is Enugu, and Chinenye is standing by.
Thank
Thank you, Lydia, and welcome to Enugu. Enugu State Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi has inaugurated over 7 constructed and rehabilitated internal roads within the university town of Nsukka. Inaugurating the roads, the governor noted that the project is in fulfillment of his administration's promise to create more urban areas in the state and boost their economic growth. Susan Eze has more.
The 11-kilometer network of urban roads rehabilitated within Nsukka include the Ameze Street, Fidokolo New Anglican Road, among others. These internal roads, according to the State Commissioner for Works, were well designed and handled by competent hands. Residents who recounted their ordeal during the period the roads were in deplorable state couldn't thank the state government enough for living up to its responsibility.
Everybody follow a road. Yeah, if you are going to site, go around. But now you can see the road is very good.
Nsukka, according to Governor Ugwuanyi, deserves to be upgraded to be at par with other university towns in attracting technology, knowledge-based businesses, and other support ventures. The internal road projects, he said, will all enhance connectivity and accessibility within the university town.
I implore the people living and passing through Nsukka to make responsive use of these roads to ensure its serviceability and durability without unnecessary physical human destructions.
State government had earlier in the first term reconstructed the 11.6 kilometers of Nsukka dual carriageway with a spur to the University of Nigeria Nsukka campus. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
The Nigerian Electricity Liability Management, an agency under the Federal Ministry of Power, has called on those infringing on its land located at Independence Layout, Enugu, to desist from the act or face the law. The land is said to have been designated for a special power project. The report. For a liberalized, productive and efficient power sector, NEMCO was established to take over the management of settlement of PHCN's power purchase agreement obligations and other legacy debts as may be determined by National Council on Privatization within the Nigeria electricity supply industry. According to the spokesman of the Electricity Liability Management, the strategic land formerly belonged to the Power Holding Company of Nigeria and was later transferred to the NEMCO with legal documents indicating ownership of the land. The representatives told NTA News that they were surprised to see that the land has been cleared and encroached on by the Enugu state government, who allegedly removed all the signposts indicating that the land belongs to NEMCO.
Look at the wall. They just pull down the wall, clear all the places, ready for them to start work. This land belongs to Nigerian Electricity Liability Management Limited, GTE, which is federal agency under Ministry of Power.
And nobody should do any transaction in respect of this property. The property belongs to NEMCO and is also designated for special power project.
The signpost was erected again. To their dismay, it was removed the next day.
Enugu State Ministry of Housing and came here to vandalize all the money we spent here, the Calvi Temptor and our write-offs on the wall of this place to warn the public to stay off. This is a federal government asset and property.
They warned any individual, body, or state government to desist from citing any project or structure on the land without any authorization from NEMCO. However, efforts made to reach the State Ministry of Housing to react on the issue proved abortive. And that is it from Enugu. Nationwide continues with Lydia in Abuja after this commercial break. This day.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus.
Welcome back. There is a saying that the souls of security and education are united by birth. This has led to the establishment of the Nigerian Army University Bill in Borno State. Correspondent Abdullahi Aminu reports that the public hearing on the establishment bill is aimed at complementing the war against insurgency.
Insurgency has led to several developmental challenges in the northeastern part of Nigeria through the destruction of life and properties. The situation, according to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, at the public hearing, requires reinvention of moral, civic and technical education that will go hand in hand with the future security architecture of the country.
It is positioned as a model for the civil-military cooperation relationship with its multi-layer and top-bottom interface between military and civilian establishments.
It should be a university whose degree will be compared with any in the world.
The ministry is very happy that the university is taking off. We shall not only compete, but we shall be among the top 5 universities in this country.
Suggestions were made on the need to decentralize the university's campuses to all geopolitical zones of the country and ensure the classification of the university as Special 1.
We will take that into consideration before we finally present the bill for consideration by the Senate.
The vision of the Nigerian Army University is to improve the present security architecture of the country and install the discipline needed for the Nigerian Army to compete effectively with its counterparts globally. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
And from Benue State, Governor Samuel Otom has charged the newly inaugurated State House of Assembly Service Commission to be guided by the extant laws of the commission. He gave the charge while inaugurating them in Makudi. Charles Abba has details.
The inauguration of the Benue State House of Assembly Service Commission lights the torch of autonomy of the legislature in the state. The members include Dr. Sylvester Atachin as chairman, Avini Agbum, Benjamin Dogo, Tetsi Tsumba, and Ezekiel Adaji. Governor Samuel Otom urged the members to maintain the synergy between the other arms of government to ensure progress and development of Benue.
You have the task of laying the foundation on which future commission members will build. In addition, you should be committed, conscientious, and patriotic in all your dealings with staff and the public.
Chairman of the commission, Dr. Sylvester Atachin, who congratulated the governor for his all-inclusive leadership style, was emphatic on the commission's determination to work harmoniously with all the machinery of government for good governance.
Other governors have been afraid to do what you have done today, and you are one of the first that is doing this.
The commission has a tenure of 4 years. In Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
Nigeria is gradually picking up from the reality of pervasive corruption, failing security, and economic depression of the past under the change mantra of President Muhammadu Buhari. In the last 5 years, Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that guests at NTA's audience participatory program Tuesday Live underscored the administration's gains in multi-sectoral and multifaceted dimensions of the nation's economy.
The continued effort in returning the economy to its right footing, reorganization of the national security architecture, and generation of investment in the last 5 years brought the views of guests at equal pal.
Unless you have a strong leader, he may get frustrated and not appoint effectively. But all the criticisms some people are doing in Nigeria, President Buhari is firm on his commitments. The projects that were abandoned had brought them back.
I can't remember any administration that has committed itself to completing projects started by previous administrations.
Major reforms in the socio-economic cycle of the country and other intervention programs initiated by federal government is encouraging massive economic participation and sustaining diversification efforts, power and road infrastructure, housing, social investment programs, rural and agricultural development, revamping of rail transport are some of the achievements on the other side, in addition to security breakthrough.
First, he said he was going to deal with the issue of corruption. He said he was going to address the issue of insecurity. He said he's going to address the issue of our economy. So in making any assessment of his performance, let us look at those three indices. And if you look at those three indices, you certainly will give him a pass mark.
And nobody is safe. Our roads are not safe. Our villages are not safe. Even the food stuff we eat in the markets are not safe because they are polluted by people who feel that this country should not stay in peace. So if we want to develop our democracy, we have to all put our heads together, remove the evil deeds in our hearts, and then join our hands together and develop our country, because this is the only country we have.
As the administration continues to serve the nation for the next 3 years, guests believed that conversations like these will strengthen and promote development. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Nigerians have given the 9th National Assembly a pass mark on its first-year anniversary of legislation, noting some gaps in the contents and timely execution of bills passed so far. The guest stated this while discussing the first anniversary of the 9th National Assembly on Good Morning Nigeria. Alika Okpanachi Arua has more.
Nigerians have commended the cordial working relationship between the executive and the 9th National Assembly in the last 1 year. While recounting some of the achievements of the 9th National Assembly so far, especially in the area of nation building, national budget reform, and social justice, among others, spokesman, House of Representatives Benjamin Kalu, appealed to the public to be more patient and understanding of the activities and operations of the National Assembly.
We came into place in June, and by September, committees of the House, which is the fulcrum with which the wheel with which the House function, came into place. Between September and December, Christmas holidays and all the rest of them, and coming back, COVID started January, February. Let's be fair. There is no magic you are going to do within 4 months that will be very visible to Nigerians on your oversight function.
Executive Director, Order Paper Nigeria, OK Apia, noted that the lack of transparency and flamboyant lifestyles of some members have led to distrust and disconnection between the public and the National Assembly. He called for more transparency on legislative agenda.
Nigerians generally should be allowed to express how they feel about their leaders. If some think that the National Assembly has done well, we can argue it, and there are points to support it. If others think that they haven't done well, they also have their valid arguments.
They appeal to the public not to believe everything they read about the National Assembly on social media, as most of them are misinformation and misconception. In Abuja, Alika Okpanachi Arua, NTA News.
Former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Adoke, has been rearraigned before the Federal High Court in Abuja on money laundering-related charges. His rearrangement before Justice Inyang Ekpo follows the transfer of the case from Court 2 to Court 5. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chinguba was there for NTA News.
Apart from the transfer from Court 2 to Court 5 indicating that the matter starts afresh, that is de novo, there are two underlying components to the charges against him: the money laundering charges and the sale and fraudulent disposal of proceeds of sale arising from Malabo oil and gas deal. Wednesday's rearrangement of the defendants borders on the money laundering-related offenses. Adoke was rearranged with an Abuja businessman, Aliu Abubakar, on a 7-count charge. When the charges were read and plea taken, they pleaded not guilty. Though no amendment was effected on the charge, 6 out of the 7 counts relate to Adoke's largely fraudulent activities in disposing the proceeds of Malabo oil deal, while 1 was against Abubakar, the co-defendant, accused of making payments of 300 million naira equivalent into Adoke's account in violation of Money Laundering Act. The EFCC had preferred the charges against the defendant in September 2013. Adoke was, among other things, accused of receiving US dollar equivalent of 300 million naira from Abubakar and paying the dollar equivalent of more than 367 million naira to one Usman Mohammed Bello. The former Justice Minister was equally accused of making structural cash payments in 22 tranches, amounting to 80 million naira, and another in 13 tranches estimated at 50 million into his Unity Bank account. In Abuja, Viera Chumuba, NTA News.
Nigeria has added her voice condemning any action or threat that will undermine the ability of the International Criminal Court to freely exercise its mandate and to carry out its core functions. In a statement by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nigeria reiterates strong and consistent support for the International Criminal Court and its vital mission. The statement further explained that stand of Nigeria captured during the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Rome Statute, in which President Muhammadu Buhari restated Nigeria's position, pointing out the alarming proliferation of the most serious crimes around the world. President Buhari also urged all states that have not done so to, as a matter of deliberate state policy, accede to the Rome Statute so that it can become a universal treaty. And now, sports news. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 recently reiterated that the country is not ready for the resumption of sporting activities across the country until it is safe to do so. Olumide Eguntola takes a look at reasons for this and necessary measures for sports to resume in Nigeria.
The guideline says that large gatherings are banned. I don't see the excitement that will be achieved if we allow sporting activities, particularly soccer like the Premier League, to resume in an empty stadium.
Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, ruled out the return of sports in the country anytime soon. That statement was received with mixed reactions amongst sports stakeholders across the country. Sporting activities had been grounded to a halt for almost